The Vegas vows. My husband said business trip, but he went to marry another. Chapter 1. The Disappearing Act. May 2023, Seattle, Washington. The rain, a constant companion in this city, drizzled gently outside our suburban home. But inside, I felt only warmth and contentment. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am 52 years old, a first-grade teacher, and for 25 years, I believed I had a happy, ordinary life. My husband, David, 55, was a software engineer. Stable, dependable, quiet. We had a daughter, Olivia, 23, now away at college, chasing her own dreams. Our life was comfortable, predictable, safe. Then came the announcement. David, at the dinner table, pushing a pea around his plate with his fork. Big project, honey. Urgent. They need me in Las Vegas for a week. Starts Monday. I smiled. Oh, busy bee. Don't work too hard. I was used to his business trips. They were a part of his career, a part of our life. I'd pack his suitcase, meticulously folding his shirts, ensuring he had his favorite travel pillow, his noise-canceling headphones. A kiss goodbye. Call me when you land. Love you. He left on Monday morning. The house felt a little emptier, but that was normal. The first few days unfolded as usual. Short, business-like calls. Just landed, busy day ahead. Text messages. Conference all day, long meetings. His voice, tired but familiar, on the other end of the line. But by Wednesday, a subtle unease began to creep in. The calls became less frequent, the texts shorter, almost curt. When I called him, he'd often let it ring, then text back, "In a meeting, call you later." Later often meant hours later. His excuses grew more elaborate. Massive technical issues, working late with the team, no time to breathe. My intuition, a quiet voice I usually trusted, began to whisper. Something felt off. On Thursday evening, a silly, spontaneous idea sparked. David loved pizza. His absolute favorite was the deep dish from our local place, with extra pepperoni and olives. I decided to surprise him. I'd order one, have it delivered directly to his hotel in Vegas. A small gesture of love, a reminder that I was thinking of him. I found the number for his hotel, the one he'd mentioned. I called the local pizza place, placed the order, gave them his name and room number, and my credit card details, for David Mitchell, room 704. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. It was the hotel, the concierge. "Mrs. Mitchell?" A polite, confused voice asked. "I'm sorry, but we have no guest by the name of David Mitchell registered at our hotel, and no one in room 704. Are you sure you have the correct hotel?" My blood ran cold. The phone slipped from my suddenly numb fingers. Click. No, it couldn't be. No David Mitchell? My mind reeled. Panic, cold and sharp, began to claw at my throat. I redialed the hotel, my hands trembling. "Are you absolutely sure?" I pleaded, my voice thin. The polite voice reiterated, "No David Mitchell. Not now. Not ever." I tried David's cell phone. Ring, ring, straight to voicemail. I tried again and again. Nothing. My mind raced, jumping to frantic, desperate conclusions. An accident? Was he hurt? Had he been kidnapped? He had to be in trouble. There was no other explanation. I called his office, his colleagues. "Hello, this is Sarah Mitchell, David's wife. I'm trying to reach him. Is he in a meeting? I know he's in Vegas for a conference." My voice trailed off, trying to sound casual, normal. His colleague, a young woman named Jen, paused. "Oh, Mrs. Mitchell? David isn't on a business trip. He took the week off. Vacation. He said he was going to, take a break, recharge." The words hit me like a physical blow. Vacation? He had lied. He wasn't in Vegas for work. He wasn't even at the hotel he claimed. He had simply disappeared. My world, the one I had built so carefully for a quarter of a century, began to crumble. The initial panic morphed into something colder, more terrifying. Where had he gone? Why had he lied? What was he hiding? The first chilling thought: he's in trouble. Then the sickening, unbidden whisper of a deeper, far more insidious truth: he was with another woman. And the final, most terrifying premonition, a cold dread that seized my heart. Las Vegas, quickie weddings, a chapel, a new life with someone else. And he had gone to marry another woman. Chapter 2, The Unraveling. The world tilted on its axis. The familiar comforts of my home, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the scent of fresh-baked bread from the kitchen, suddenly felt alien, menacing. My husband, my anchor, my rock for 25 years, had vanished, leaving behind a trail of lies. The shock was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. My first impulse was to deny it, to find a rational explanation. He'd made a mistake. The hotel reservation got mixed up. He'd gone to a different city. He'd had to change plans last minute. But the colleague's words, "He took the week off, vacation," echoed in my mind, a relentless drumbeat of betrayal. I tried his phone again. Still off. I tried calling his parents, but they were elderly, easily confused, and lived across the country. I couldn't burden them with my frantic, baseless suspicions. Not yet. I considered calling the police again, but the rational part of my brain knew their response. A missing persons report couldn't be filed for a healthy adult who had simply taken a vacation, no matter how suspicious the circumstances. My best friend, Maya, was a fierce, pragmatic force of nature. She had navigated her own messy divorce years ago and emerged stronger, if a little cynical. I called her, my voice shaking, barely coherent. "Maya, David, he's gone. He lied. He's not on a business trip. He's not at the hotel. He's on vacation. In Vegas." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Maya's voice, calm but firm: "Sarah, breathe. Listen to me. He's not in trouble. He's not kidnapped. He's in Vegas, and he's not alone." Her words, blunt and unvarnished, cut through my panic like a surgeon's scalpel. They hurt, but they were true. "What do you mean?" I whispered, though I already knew. "I mean, sweetie," she said, her voice softening slightly. "Men don't usually go to Vegas alone for a vacation when they've told their wives it's a business trip, especially not David, and especially not for a week." She urged me to come over, to talk, to plan. When I arrived, still numb with shock, Maya had already pulled out her laptop. "First things first, we need to know where his money is going. Do you have access to your joint bank accounts? His credit cards?" I did. David, bless his meticulous nature, had always kept everything in perfect order. Within minutes, Maya was navigating through our online banking statements, and there it was, a flood of transactions undeniable and damning. Las Vegas, large withdrawals from ATMs, expensive hotels, not the one he'd named, high-end restaurants, and then the killer blow, a series of payments to a Vegas Vows Chapel, another to a Diamond District jeweler, and a very substantial one to a luxury honeymoon suite. My breath hitched. The screen blurred through a film of hot, angry tears. It wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was irrefutable proof. He hadn't gone for a business trip. He had gone to get married to someone else, while still married to me. The betrayal was so immense, so audacious, so utterly unthinkable, that it left me gasping. "Oh, Sarah," Maya murmured, wrapping an arm around me. "The bastard." I remember the small, brightly colored brochure I'd seen tucked into David's briefcase weeks ago. I'd thought nothing of it then. A Vegas wedding pamphlet. I had even teased him about it. "Thinking of renewing our vows, hun?" He just chuckled, a dismissive sound, and said, "Just a quirky ad. Found it in some junk mail." Now, that innocuous brochure was a smoking gun. My world, once predictable, was now utterly unrecognizable. The comfortable rhythm of my life, the quiet love I thought I shared, the very foundation of my existence, it was all a meticulously constructed lie. And I, the trusting wife, had been living in the center of it, utterly blind. The shock began to recede, replaced by a cold, burning rage. He hadn't just cheated. He had systematically, deliberately demolished our 25 years together. He had treated our marriage, our life, our daughter as disposable. And now, armed with the sickening truth, I knew I couldn't just crumble. I had to fight back. Chapter 3: The Daughter's Fury. The raw, burning anger that surged through me, replacing the initial shock and despair, was a strange kind of fuel. It wasn't the irrational fury of a scorned woman. It was the cold, calculated rage of a betrayed partner, a mother protecting her child. My predictable, complacent life had been shattered, but in its ruins, something new, something fierce was beginning to emerge. My first thought, after the initial storm of tears and disbelief, was Olivia, our daughter, our precious, beloved Olivia. She was 23, smart, sensitive, and deeply attached to her father. How could I tell her? How could I explain this grotesque betrayal? How could I shield her from the fallout of David's monstrous deception? I called her. She was in her dorm room, studying for finals. "Mom, is everything okay? You sound weird." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "Olivia, honey, I need to tell you something. It's about Dad." And then, as calmly as I could, I laid out the bare facts, the fake business trip, the hotel, the bank statements, the Vegas Vows Chapel. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then a gasp. "No, Mom, no way. Dad wouldn't. He loves you. He loves us." Denial. Raw, then immediate. "The proof, Olivia. It's all there." My voice cracked. Then her denial morphed into something else, something fierce and protective. "That bastard. How could he? After everything? Mom, I'm coming home, right now." She arrived hours later, her eyes red-rimmed, her face pale with shock and fury. She hugged me tightly, silently, then pulled away, her jaw set. "We're going to make him pay for this, Mom. We are." Her anger, a mirror of my own, fortified me. We weren't just two women abandoned. We were a united front. Maya, ever the pragmatist, had already been researching. "We need a private investigator, Sarah. Someone discreet, thorough. Someone who can get you the full picture. Who is this woman? How long has this been going on? What assets has he been hiding?" The idea of a private detective felt surreal, like something out of a bad movie. But I knew Maya was right. I needed undeniable, admissible evidence, not just for my own peace of mind, but for the looming divorce. Maya found him, Detective Robert Roberts. He was an older man, stoic, with a quiet competence that immediately inspired confidence. His office was surprisingly unremarkable. No shadowy corners or overflowing ashtrays, just a neat desk and a stack of files. I laid out my story, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. I showed him the bank statements, the brochure. He listened patiently, his face unreadable. "It's a common story, Mrs. Mitchell," he said, his voice gravelly. Men in midlife crises, money, opportunity, a younger woman. Happens all the time. His bluntness, though jarring, was oddly comforting. It normalized the grotesque. Within a week, Detective Roberts delivered the first set of findings. His reports were meticulous, damning. David Mitchell had indeed married Jennifer Hope, age 30, a junior colleague from his own tech company, at a drive-through chapel in Las Vegas. Roberts provided photographs. A grinning David, looking younger, almost giddy, standing next to a stunning, vibrant young woman in a white, slightly too tight dress. The picture was a punch to the gut. The woman, Jen, was undeniably beautiful, with bright, ambitious eyes. She was everything I was not. Young, fresh, unburdened by years of shared history. Roberts also uncovered that David's affair with Jen had been ongoing for almost 2 years. 2 years, while he came home to me every night, ate my dinners, slept in our bed, and kissed me goodbye. 2 years of elaborate lies, of stolen moments, of calculated deception. And it got worse. Roberts discovered David had systematically been siphoning money from our joint accounts, moving substantial sums into hidden personal accounts, and even, more recently, discreetly transferring assets, purchasing a condo, buying shares, all in Jen's name. He wasn't just having an affair. He was planning his exit. He was preparing to leave me, to bleed me dry, to disappear into his new, pristine life, leaving me with nothing but shattered memories and an empty bank account. The revelation ignited a new kind of fire within me. The pain was still there, a deep, persistent ache, but it was now overshadowed by a fierce, righteous indignation. I was no longer just the betrayed wife. I was a woman wronged, a mother protecting her daughter's future, a victim who refused to remain a victim. David Mitchell had made a terrible mistake. He had underestimated me. He had underestimated the quiet woman he thought he knew. He had treated me like a fool. And now, I was going to show him exactly what a fool I wasn't. My revenge wouldn't be loud or dramatic. It would be cold, strategic, and utterly devastating. I was ready to fight. Chapter 4. The Homecoming. The week David was away felt like an eternity, a slow-motion nightmare unfolding. Armed with Detective Roberts' meticulously compiled evidence, the marriage certificate, the damning photos, the detailed financial records of his hidden accounts and illicit transfers, I moved with a chilling precision. Maya was my rock, helping me find the best divorce attorney in Seattle, a woman known for her tenacity and razor-sharp intellect. Olivia, still reeling from the shock, stood by my side, her quiet fury mirroring my own. We changed the locks, a symbolic act that felt both heartbreaking and empowering. We meticulously documented everything in the house, from furniture to artwork, preparing for the battle ahead. The silence of the house, once filled with the phantom echoes of David's lies, now buzzed with the quiet determination of 2 women preparing for war. Then Friday arrived, the day David was scheduled to return. My heart hammered, a mix of apprehension and grim resolve. He wouldn't know. He would walk in, expecting his comfortable, unsuspecting life, expecting me to greet him with a warm smile and a ready meal. He wouldn't know the ground beneath his feet had shifted. I dressed carefully, not in mourning clothes, not in angry defiance, just a simple, elegant dress, the one he said made me look effortlessly beautiful. I wanted to be calm, composed, unbreakable. Olivia sat beside me in the living room, her hand clasped in mine. The familiar sound of his key in the lock, the click of the door. "Honey, I'm home." His voice, filled with a practiced cheerfulness, grated on my ears. He walked in, his suitcase in hand, a triumphant, well-rested look on his face. He looked younger, almost boyish. The sickening image of him grinning next to Jen at that Vegas chapel flashed through my mind. He set down his bag, his eyes scanning the quiet room. "What's wrong? Why are you two so serious?" He walked towards me, a casual kiss intended for my cheek. I stepped back out of reach. My voice, when it came, was steady, clear, devoid of emotion. "David, we need to talk." His smile faltered. He looked from me to Olivia, who sat stiffly, her face a mask of cold anger. "What is this? What's going on?" I held up the envelope, the one containing the proof, the photos, the marriage certificate. "Your business trip was to Las Vegas. I know. You didn't stay at the hotel you told me. I know. You took a vacation. I know." Each word was a precise, calculated blow. "And you didn't go alone, did you, David?" He stared at the envelope in my hand, his face draining of color. "Sarah, what are you talking about? Are you feeling all right?" He tried to sound indignant, but his voice wavered. "Oh, I'm feeling perfectly fine now, David. Better than ever, in fact, because now I know." I opened the envelope, pulling out a handful of printed photos. The one of him and Jen smiling outside the chapel. The one of them exchanging rings. The one of them kissing. I laid them on the coffee table, like damning evidence. "Is this enough, David? Or shall I get the bank statements? The transfers to Miss Hope's accounts? The condo you bought her?" His eyes darted from the photos to my face, then to Olivia's. His carefully constructed facade shattered. The color drained from his face, leaving him ashen. "Sarah, I can explain. It's not what you think. This is a mistake, a terrible mistake," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Jen, she means nothing. It was a moment of weakness. Please, Sarah, don't do this. It was a moment of weakness that lasted 2 years, David," Olivia cut in, her voice cold, venomous. "And ended in a secret wedding? You disgust me." David turned to her, his face contorted in pain. "Olivia, honey, please, don't talk like that. Your mother is upset. She's overreacting. This is just a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding, David," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "This is a betrayal, a 25-year lie. I am filing for divorce, and I am taking everything. Every single penny you tried to hide, every asset you tried to squirrel away. You will lose it all, and I will make sure the world knows exactly what kind of man you are." His eyes widened in genuine terror. "No, Sarah, no. Don't do that. Think of my reputation, my job. We can do this quietly. I'll give you a generous settlement. Just don't ruin me, please." "You ruined yourself, David," I replied, standing up, my posture straight, my head held high. "Now, get out of my house. You have until the end of the day to pack a bag. I've already had the locks changed. You can stay in a hotel, or with your new wife, perhaps." He stood there stunned, broken, his carefully crafted world collapsing around him. The man who had left for a business trip had returned to a battlefield he hadn't known existed. He had underestimated the quiet woman he had taken for granted. He had underestimated the power of truth. And now, he was about to face the consequences. The fight, I knew, was just beginning. But for the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The illusion was gone, and in its place, a fierce, unwavering determination to reclaim my life. Chapter 5: The Battle for Dignity. The confrontation with David was a pivotal moment. The shock and disbelief that had clouded my days since his business trip finally gave way to a hardened resolve. The man who had stood before me, pleading, bargaining, was a stranger. The mask of the dependable, loving husband had irrevocably slipped, revealing a calculating, selfish opportunist. My heart still ached, but the pain was now laced with a cold, clear determination. The divorce proceedings began with a swift, brutal efficiency. My attorney, a formidable woman named Brenda Sterling, was everything David's panicked, quickly hired lawyer was not: prepared, sharp, and utterly ruthless. She had a reputation for not just winning, but for dismantling the opposition, especially when dealing with spouses who had engaged in marital misconduct and financial deception. David, true to form, tried every trick in the book. He attempted to hide assets, to downplay his income, to paint himself as a victim of a crazy emotional wife. He even tried to manipulate Olivia, appealing to her love for him, trying to turn her against me. But Olivia, witnessing her father's true character, saw through his pathetic attempts. Her loyalty to me, forged in the crucible of his betrayal, only grew stronger. "He's just trying to save his own skin, Mom," she'd tell me, her voice firm. "Don't let him get away with it." Brenda worked closely with Detective Roberts, who continued to unearth every hidden financial trail. His evidence became invaluable: the meticulously documented transfers to secret accounts, the properties and investments subtly placed in Jen's name, the receipts for lavish gifts purchased for his new wife while I was budgeting our household expenses. Every piece of paper, every digital footprint, was a testament to his calculated deception. The court hearings were agonizing. Sitting across from David, watching him lie under oath, listening to his lawyer paint me as an unhinged, vengeful woman, tested every fiber of my being. But I held firm. I kept my gaze steady, my voice calm, presenting my testimony with an almost detached clarity. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply presented the facts. The evidence spoke for itself. My story, though personal, began to draw quiet attention. Small local news outlets, intrigued by the sensational details of a businessman's secret Vegas wedding, started to cover the proceedings. I wasn't seeking public sympathy, but the subtle shift in public perception, the whispered comments in the courthouse hallways, the sympathetic glances from strangers, offered a strange kind of vindication. People saw the truth. One particularly grueling day in court, David's lawyer tried to discredit my character, bringing up minor disagreements from our past, attempting to portray me as difficult, unstable. I listened, my heart pounding, but I remembered Brenda's advice: "Stay calm, Sarah. Let him hang himself." And he did. His desperation made him careless, his lies transparent. When it was my turn, Brenda simply presented the photos from the Vegas chapel. The judge, a stern, unblinking woman, looked at the smiling faces of David and Jen, then at David, then back at me. Her expression was unreadable, but a flicker of something, perhaps disgust, passed through her eyes. The financial revelations were even more damning. David's attempts to hide assets were blatant, a clear violation of marital property laws. He had not just committed adultery, he had also engaged in financial fraud against his legal spouse. The judge made it clear that she viewed this as a grave breach of trust and a deliberate attempt to defraud me. The legal battle dragged on for months, a draining, emotionally exhausting war of attrition. But I refused to break. I drew strength from Olivia, from Maya, from the quiet dignity I discovered within myself. This wasn't just about money or revenge. It was about justice. It was about reclaiming my life, my self-respect, and proving to myself and my daughter that I would not be defined by David's betrayal. I would rise from the ashes, stronger, more resilient, and with my head held high. And as the case moved towards its conclusion, I felt a quiet certainty. The dignity I was fighting for was already mine. Chapter 6: A New Dawn. The final judgment came, swift and decisive. The judge, citing David's egregious marital misconduct and deliberate financial deception, ruled overwhelmingly in my favor. I was awarded a substantial portion of our marital assets, far more than David had ever anticipated. Our home, the very house where his betrayal had unfolded, was unequivocally mine. His carefully constructed life with Jen, built on a foundation of lies and stolen funds, began to crumble. His reputation at work took a significant hit, whispered rumors spreading through the tech community. His relationship with Jen, already strained by the pressure of the lawsuit and his financial losses, became fraught with tension. As I walked out of the courthouse that day, the Seattle rain felt cleansing, not gloomy. Olivia was there, wrapping me in a fierce hug. "We did it, Mom," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You did it." The months that followed were a period of quiet rebuilding. The house, once a symbol of betrayal, slowly transformed into a sanctuary of new beginnings. I redecorated, painted walls, rearranged furniture. Each change, however small, was an act of reclamation, a brushstroke on the canvas of my new life. The lingering ghost of David's presence faded, replaced by the warmth of genuine peace and renewed purpose. I continued teaching first grade, finding solace and joy in the bright, innocent faces of my students. Their uncomplicated honesty was a balm to my soul after years of living with such complex deceit. I rediscovered hobbies I had set aside during my marriage: gardening, painting, hiking in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. I took a cooking class, learned to play bridge, even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. My life, once defined by another, was now entirely my own. My relationship with Olivia deepened, forged into an unbreakable bond through shared adversity. She was my confidant, my strength, a living testament to the fact that even in the darkest moments, love and loyalty could thrive. One crisp autumn afternoon, several months after the divorce was finalized, I was out for a walk in a bustling part of the city. I turned a corner, and there he was, David. He was walking with Jen, both looking tired, strained. He had aged significantly. His shoulders slumped, his face lined with what looked like defeat. He saw me. His eyes, once so clear and piercing, now held a haunted, almost vacant look. He quickly averted his gaze, pulling Jen along, trying to disappear into the crowd. I didn't feel the sharp pang of anger I once had. No bitterness, no desire for retribution, just a quiet, almost detached sense of satisfaction. Justice, in its own way, had been served. He had made his choices, and he was living with the consequences. I, on the other hand, was free. Truly free. I realized then that this wasn't just a story of betrayal. It was a story of resilience, of finding an unexpected strength within myself when my world crumbled, of the unwavering support of friends like Maya, who stood by me through the darkest hours, of the fierce protective love of my daughter. It was a testament to the fact that even the most profound pain can be a catalyst for growth, for transformation. I didn't look for another man. My life felt full, rich, and complete on its own terms. I was open to new experiences, new friendships, new adventures, but I no longer needed a partner to define me or to make me whole. I was whole entirely on my own. The house, once filled with the ghosts of a broken marriage, now echoed with laughter, with music, with the vibrant energy of a woman reborn. My name was Sarah Mitchell, and my life, which I once thought had ended with a lie, had in fact just begun, filled with dignity, self-respect, and a quiet, profound joy. I had survived the storm, and I had emerged not merely intact, but truly, beautifully whole.